We did a recruiting video last week asking if UF was going to be able to hold on to their 2024 class. And since then, they have lost 3 blue chip commits. And there's a certain amount of concern going around that there might be some others joining them. So, what can Billy Napier do? Let's talk about that. But quick recap of what has happened since our last video. We have had, like I said, 3 decommitments. Wardell Mack decommitted last week. He is a 4-star cornerback. He's out of Louisiana. And he announced that he's going to be backing off his pledge to the Florida Gators and flipping to the Texas Longhorns. If you guys remember, he's 6'1", 180-pound cornerback. He's been committed to Florida since August. He is ranked as a top 5 cornerback in the 2024 class. So this is definitely a loss there for Corey Raymond and company. Then Jamonta Waller from Mississippi. He is the number 18th prospect overall for 2024. 5-star guy, defensive end that we were just really, really excited to get in here, get developed, have contribute immediately. He was one of 2 5-stars in Florida's 3rd-ranked class, DJ Lagway being the other. DJ Lagway is number 16 overall. So this is also a huge hit, particularly at a position where Florida needs immediate help. This is an area where you watch the Gators on Saturday and you could see a space for somebody to come in and contribute immediately because Florida's defensive line has sort of underperformed this season so far. The 3rd player that flipped just happened a day ago, Nasir Johnson. Listen, this guy is a complete stud. He could be an all SEC lineman if he wanted. He could be anything. He's so good. He is actually a regional champion at shot put and discus. Just so incredibly athletic. Was committed to Florida. He's a 4-star guy out of Georgia. He took an official visit to Georgia over the weekend and then quickly made the decision to flip to the home state Georgia Bulldogs. It was going to always be a battle for this kid with Georgia if Georgia really wanted him because of those hometown ties that existed. But again, another big loss for the Gators. All of these happened on the defensive side of the ball. Clearly, that's an area that Florida has struggled in on the field this year. So this is not great news. There's more not great news, though, guys. There has been a couple of crystal balls actually put in about Amaris Williams. He's the defensive line out of North Carolina that's currently committed to Florida. He took a visit to Ohio State for the Buckeyes game versus Michigan State. And that has caused a lot of people to put in a prediction that he may be flipping to Ohio State. Just to refresh your memory on Amaris Williams, he is 6'3", 275-pound guy. He's been committed to the Florida Gators since mid-June, so for a long time. But Ohio State, with that interest, has really kind of made him second-guess his decision a little bit. And so there are some crystal balls out thinking that he may be making a flip to the Buckeyes. There's some areas of concern, and I wouldn't say that we would go as far as to say that these guys are on flip watch or anything like that, but something to keep an eye on. Xavier Filsaime took a visit to Texas. This is a guy that is one of the top-ranked members of this class. He is a safety that Florida needs to get in immediately, one of the mantelpieces of the 2024 class. It would be really detrimental if they lost him. I don't think Filsaime is going anywhere, but it's something to keep an eye on when somebody that has been committed to you takes a visit elsewhere. Adarius Hayes is another player to keep an eye on. He is a linebacker currently committed to Florida, but there's been a lot of Miami spoke in the past few days. He's from Largo. Miami has been a team that's been in this kind of all along. I think the Canes are still in his ear, still talking to him, so I don't know that one is completely over. Another guy we're keeping an eye on is LJ McCray. He just committed to Florida a couple of weeks ago. He said he's solid. This is where he wants to be. But we do know that FSU hasn't stopped recruiting him really hard. They want him in this class. And anytime you have a team that is 10-0, potentially looking at the playoffs, heading to their conference championship, it's something to keep an eye on, even though I think the Gators do like where they stand right now with McCray. And then, of course, everybody keeps asking me, is DJ Lagway going anywhere? I am not concerned at all about DJ Lagway flipping, but anytime you have a 5-star quarterback, one of the top ranked players in the entire country, you need to keep recruiting him until the end. I think Napier and DJ Lagway have a really great relationship. They're very close. I think he's 100% in, but don't take your foot off the gas. Continue to recruit one of the top players in the entire country until that ink is dry. Now, there are a couple guys that could help turn this around. We've had some bad news. We've had these flips. There's crystal balls for some of our other players, maybe heading in another direction. But good news could be on the horizon. Zay Mincy out of Daytona Beach, Mainland is another player that we are keeping an eye on. He could be a great addition to this class. Same high school as teammate LJ McCray, who is currently committed to the Gators. A lot of experts has thought that Zay Mincy was going to be a Gator, but he himself is playing this pretty close to the vest. So we have questions. We don't know. Miami is a school that's mentioned a lot when Mincy's name's brought up. I don't think this recruitment is over. Florida needs to continue to push for this kid, but I think he'd look good in orange and blue. It'd be a great addition to the 2024 class. Jaden Bow. He is currently committed to Arkansas, a 4-star running back out of Decatur, Georgia. This is an interesting one because Florida has come on strong in the past couple of weeks for him. He came to visit UF when they played Arkansas. And like I said, he is currently committed to the Razorbacks, but there's a lot of people that think he is trending towards Florida. Florida could use another running back in the 2024 class, so this would be a nice pickup. Another player to keep their eye on is probably the largest, both figuratively and literally, player that Florida is still in it for in the 2024 class is Jordan Seaton. He's one of the top players in the 2024 recruiting class. He ranks as a 5-star offensive lineman, the number 16 player in the country, according to 247 composite rankings. He is 6'5", 287 pounds. He is the top offensive tackle in the entire country. And I have been told that the powers that be feel pretty good about where they stand with Jordan Seaton at the moment, but he's not committing until December, which basically feels like forever away at this point. This would be a huge pickup for Florida. Florida struggled on the offensive line this year. They need players who can come in and contribute immediately. A lot of times, offensive linemen are projects, right? Because they come from high schools that they just threw the biggest guys on the line. They didn't necessarily develop them. Jordan Seaton is coming from IMG. This is a guy that could play college football next season. He could start or contribute on an offensive line in the SEC. That is huge. So if Florida could land Jordan Seaton, it would go a long way to make people feel better about the flips we did have in this class. Another guy to keep their eye on is somebody that was at one point already committed to the Gators. Makai Borio, a UF commit in the past, is still kind of hot on the Gators. Defensive lineman out of Georgia. He decommitted in September. UF has gotten him back on campus multiple times since the decommitment, though, which is a good sign. He has said that it felt like he never left. He was afraid it would be awkward, but when he came back, it was all love. He really likes what Billy Napier is doing with the program. And so, again, even though he decommitted, I think that there's a good chance he ends up in orange and blue at the end of the day. The biggest threat probably to that happening is, of course, the Georgia Bulldogs, and it's the hometown team, and they're going to be hard to say no to. But again, another good pickup for Florida if they could land him, particularly because they've lost some defensive lineman commits. This class currently, at this exact moment, is sitting at number 5. If they lose Amaris Williams to Ohio State, that class falls to number 10, which is just ahead of the Miami Hurricanes. If this class falls out of the top 10, there goes Billy Napier's safety net. Mullen was a great game day coach, but you sacrificed some of that for an elite recruiter like Billy Napier. Billy's game day mistakes are one thing, right? We knew that we were not going to have as elite of a game day coach because we were getting an elite recruiter. But if this class isn't elite, it's hard to see how he turns the program around. You have got to bring in elite players. That's how you win in the Southeastern Conference. It's how you win in college football in general these days. But if you are not going to be an incredible game day coach, you better have the pieces to make up for that. That's what Gators were hoping for when they signed Coach Napier. And you know what? That could still be to come. This class is more than likely going to mostly stick together. They're going to bring in a lot of talent. We're going to be able to see what Billy Napier does with it. I'm not out on Coach Napier. I think there's still time. They're still in it for other kids like Mincy and Seton. But his priority number one is going to have to be holding this class together. And, I think his strategy on the 2024 recruitment cycle was the right one. Billy came out fast and furious and got as many guys to commit before the season started as humanly possible. And now he's playing defense. That was the right way to go about it if you thought that your on the field production wasn't going to be what entices recruits. Imagine if Florida had none of these guys committed to them when the season started. I don't know that the on the field play is really selling these guys to UF, but that's okay because Coach Napier sold the dream prior to this happening. He sold the vision. He said, come here, let's build this together. He prepared them for the fact that the on-the-field production this year probably just wasn't going to be there, which was an incredibly smart move. It's how he got as many guys committed to him before the season started as he did, and it's how he's hanging on to most of them. It's easier to play defense in recruiting than it is to go on offense when you are sitting at a 5-6 wins period on the season. So even though there has been some attrition in the last couple of days, I still think his strategy was absolutely the smart one from this program. Imagine trying to land 15 kids right now with 5 wins. That would be a much more difficult ask. Your class started the season pretty close to full, gave you the ability to throw some lines in the water for some really, really big fish like a Jordan Seton. And if you land them, that's excellent. But if you don't, you still have a really impressive class relative to your rankings. It's going to be a tough ask to hold on to everybody else. But if UF can find a way to get an upset either this weekend against Missouri or next weekend against Florida State, it could go a long way in building up some of the momentum for